a victim is discovered by a popular football field. An investigation is launched to try and identify who the young victim is and what the motive for the murder could possibly be.
Just a quick disclaimer, the content presented in this podcast is based on real events and may contain graphic descriptions of violence, crime scenes and other disturbing material. Listener discretion is advised.
This episode is sponsored by Think Forensic.
Think Forensic are a one-stop shop for all things forensic science and crime solving. They hold experience days, as well as corporate events, team building events, and general education for primary school right the way up to university level, as well as other events and consultancy. There's also a shop where you can get your hands on all things crime solving, from evidence gathering to packaging and collecting evidence, as well as other forensic science equipment.
For more information or to book on an experience day, please visit the website. Hi everyone, and welcome back to Season 2, Episode 28 of the Grave Secrets podcast. We're your hosts, I'm Annie.
And I'm Beth. We're mixing it up today with the letting you know what episode we're actually on.
You know what? We never say it anymore. We used to say it, and we never do now because we don't have a clue what episode we're on.
No, and also, whenever it comes to like editing and stuff, we sometimes switch around the order, don't we?
Yeah.
So you never quite know. But today we're pretty sure.
So we've just got in there. We've got in there with a firm confirmation. We're on episode 28.
Also, would you believe that there will be 7 more episodes in this series, and then that's it. We've already finished season 2.
Wow, and then we're on to season 3, probably for summer.
Yeah.
That's mad.
That is pretty crazy.
It is.
Let us know if you want season 3. Comment, like, share.
And leave us reviews. We've got a couple more reviews on iTunes.
Oh, have we? I'll have to
yeah,
go back to
like a writing review as well. Well, I don't know if they're new, but I'd not seen them before.
Okay.
So they might not be new. But
well,
yeah,
thank you for them regardless.
If you can, leave us a 5-star review and just write something in the box as well.
Yeah.
That really, really helps. And on Spotify, all you have to do is click the 5 stars at the top. Yeah. So that's a really easy one for us to do. And
you could do that by accident.
It will really help us out because we are so close to the monetization tier as well.
Yeah, and we don't talk about it an awful lot, but we do put quite a lot of money into this.
Yeah, so we have our studio, don't we? We do the editing, we do the artwork and everything. Everything that is done on the podcast, we do ourselves, the equipment.
Yeah.
So it'd be nice to even just monetize a little bit, wouldn't it? Anyway, into our case for today.
So for today's case, a victim is discovered by a popular football field. An investigation is launched to try and identify who the young victim is and what the motive for the murder could possibly be. Again, it is another one in broad daylight in a busy area. I actually can't think of the last time we covered a case where a body was found in the middle of nowhere or...
Yeah, this is such a popular area, isn't it, where a body is just discovered.
I think back to when we did the case, which was over in California, and it was the series of women that were found.
Was it Sunset
Strip?
Murders,
yeah. They were all kind of found, again, off the beaten track. No one would necessarily have a reason to be out there. But all of these recent cases that we've been covering...
Just more and more common to be in the broad daylight, open space, finding a body, isn't it? And this one is in America. So,
yes,
not a UK case today.
We're talking about a case that took place in Indiana today, in Evansville. And we're going back to 2017 for this one. So, early hours of the 24th of April, 2017. Again, a call comes in, this time to 911, and the report that a dead body has been found lying in the car park of a football field. Now, it's unclear who actually called this in.
Yeah, I didn't find that out either.
I couldn't find anything about this. I will say we've tried to do as much as we possibly can research-wise on this case. There's quite a lot of information in some senses, but unfortunately, it's a lot of information about the offender and not a lot of information about the victim.
Yeah, and as always, we want to be victim-focused and not give the offender too much of
the limelight.
Yeah.
So Mike Perry was one of the first officers on scene, and he described it as a horrifically shocking scene. Not only is this an area where you would just never expect violent crime to take place, but incredibly public. There's a large stretch of road, there's fields either side, and then the football field was kind of alongside this road, and the car park that the victim was found at.
I always find in cases like this, it must be such a shock to the community in general, because, you know, if nothing happens like this, then all of a sudden you're feeling unsafe in your own home, aren't you, really?
Yeah, and you never know, there might be like a football match planned for the following day or next couple of days, and you kind of expect matches to get called off, well, in the UK at least, for weather.
Yeah.
But never for something like this. So it was clear that the victim was a young female. Again, really horrific scene in that one of her shoes had come off. She was just lying in the middle of the car park. And strangely, alongside her body was a large blue towel, like a gym or bath towel, quite a big towel. And that actually had quite a large stain on it as well, that potentially could have been blood. Pretty imminently, they indicated that they believed the cause of death appeared to be a gunshot wound, but there was no weapon left at the scene.
So here, it's the same as a few of the other cases we've covered. We've not got much at this point forensically.
No, and although it appears that she has been killed at that location and then left because there was a large pool of blood as well at the scene, in terms of looking for firearm and ballistic evidence, you've then got a very vast area to try and investigate.
Yeah.
Because if you're looking for bullet casings and things like that, they could have travelled or rolled. So there's a lot to cover.
So in this case, is what they had to do is start from the body and sort of like fan out, just to make sure they'd covered all the area, and they were looking for the casing. But you know how small it is. If it is near, you know, the football pitch, going through grassy areas and things like that, it's even harder to find evidence, isn't it?
Yeah.
In places.
The crime scene didn't look like there'd been a struggle, so that gave the impression that the victim was most likely taken by surprise, but motive is really unclear here. Is it a robbery? Is it a potential drug deal gone wrong? Because sometimes that kind of thing happens in public areas like car parks. Is it a lover's tiff that's gone wrong? So we just have no idea. There was no ID on the victim's body. There was no phone on the victim, and so nothing obvious that could lead to an identification.
And maybe that could be signs of a robbery. If there's no purse, no phone, you know, at this point, police could think maybe the robbery gone wrong.
I thought that. The next logical thing to have a look at in order to try and identify the victim is to look for any antecedent markers. So that's like birthmarks, piercings, and they did notice that the victim had a tattoo, or she'd got a couple of tattoos. Again, quite quickly, the news hit the press in this case because obviously murder at a football field or death at a football field
it doesn't normally happen
is going to hit the press pretty soon. Minimal details were actually revealed, but it was revealed that a body had been found at the Alcoa soccer complex in Warren County and that it was suspicious circumstances.
Yeah.
As that information comes out, a mother of 3 was scrolling along Facebook. This is now the following day, and she comes across the news. She has 3 daughters that were all students in the area at that time. So, as all mothers do, I mean, mine is incredibly overprotective. Texts and says, "I've just seen the news.
Are you all right?
Are you all right?
Can everyone check in with me?"
Yeah. And her 2 youngest daughters replied straight away to say that, yes, they were fine. But Halee, who was the eldest daughter, didn't respond to her mum and then did not respond to her sisters. You can't imagine, can you? Because you do when you send those texts. I mean, I do it, well, we do it with each other, don't we? Where you send the text and you're like, everything all right? You okay? And straight away you are kind of anticipating that like message back that says,
yeah,
no
they're going to be,
problem,"
I'm all right.
or sorry,
yeah.
I've not replied. I went and got drunk.
Yeah. And in this case, Haley's mum, Heather, and the sisters start getting worried. So they start contacting her friends as well to see, if anyone's seen her. But still at this point, they're probably not thinking anything of it. It might be thinking she's gone out and she's just turned the phone off, battery's gone or something like that.
Anything.
You wouldn't really go to thinking the worst case scenario.
No.
So they started with the best friend Ainsley. But when Ainsley hadn't heard from Halee either, I think that's when they became a little bit more worried.
So they decided to check a location.
It's a good thing to have your location on, isn't it?
Yeah.
I have Beth's location.
So I think most people would like my location. So they check her location, and unfortunately there is no information about where she is, which would suggest that the phone's maybe switched off.
Yeah, or even worse, if the location's been turned off.
Yeah. So they then do some further digging and find out that Halee didn't actually attend her exam, which is incredibly unlike her. Again, her mother, Heather, said that it was really unlike her to miss class or to not answer the phone in the first place. So Heather actually had a friend or a detective that she knew in Evansville, and basically texted them and said, I can't get hold of Halee. Do you know anyone in Warwick County Police? Now, again, forgive us for being ignorant in this case. I'm assuming that Evansville is their local police, and then the Warwick County is maybe the larger state police.
Yeah, I don't really know exactly how it works, but I know they have some of the smaller and the larger police forces.
Yes. So she then said, do you know anyone in Warwick County Police? And because I'm worried about my daughter. The detective replied and straight away then asked Heather for photos of Halee's tattoos. And you just know, don't you, at that stage, that something is wrong.
Something's not right, yeah.
I can't even imagine how that would feel, because you've been trying to convince yourself probably that whole time that, like you say,
it's all right.
She's just slept in and she's probably just got caught up in her own little world.
I think in this as well, the police actually go to Halee's Facebook.
Yeah, they go
and they look through her social media and scroll through her photos.
So that's probably the first name that they've had linking to the investigation.
Yeah, and you can see visible tattoos. Now it got me thinking, like, would you be able to identify me from my tattoos? Because do you even know what they are?
I think I know which ones you've had lasered.
See, that's what I mean. Yeah, how much would you still see? I was thinking, when mine haven't been lasered, I might not have any identifying markers anymore.
Maybe you'll have to get some new ones.
Obviously, I'd be able to tell you from yours.
Yeah. So the police start looking at these tattoos from photos, and they do believe that one of the tattoos that's on her collarbone is a match. And it was actually the word believe with a love heart. And at that point, police unfortunately confirm with Heather that Halee is in fact the victim. So Halee Rathgeber was a 20-year-old university student. She was studying at the University of Southern Indiana. She was studying nursing, which I thought was an incredible story. She was actually incredibly ill when she was young and ended up in a coma. And because of how much her family had been through and she had been through, she decided that she wanted to commit her life to helping other people.
And I found as well that when other people were describing Halee, like how caring she was and how much she took care of other people, I thought that would have been a really good profession and she would have made a brilliant nurse.
Yeah, as we've mentioned, she was the oldest of 3 sisters. So they said that she was always that kind of protective big sister that stuck up for everyone and not just her family. She'd got a strong sense for justice and courage, and this is a really awful example of someone being courageous, but I think it's important that we mention it. So when Halee was 12, she actually went round to a friend's house. Her friend had an older brother who was 19 at the time, and he'd actually tried to take advantage of Halee. She obviously was umming and ahhing whether or not to say anything. It'd be incredibly difficult, especially at just the age of 12. But she decided to speak up and talk about what he had done. At that point, she then discovered that other girls had gone through the same thing. So again, was brave enough to provide a witness testimony at court and stand up for other victims and stop anyone else being subject to that. So again, that's testament to the kind of person that she was.
And ultimately, the guy got sent to prison. So she played a big part in that, really, didn't she?
Hugely.
Yeah.
So we now obviously want justice for Halee, and police need to investigate and make sure that the offender is off the streets. They comb the crime scene and they're looking for any trace evidence that gives any indication of suspect and motive. And again, if you listen to last week's case, I feel a bit like we're kind of repeating ourselves.
It is a little bit similar, but I didn't realise until I started researching the cases, like a bit deeper into it, that they were so similar.
Because there's not a lot of information at the scene. You obviously need to get hold of the murder weapon, but that's not always as simple as you would want it to be. And local officers quite quickly decided that they needed support of a larger force, so they actually enlisted the help of the FBI. That, again, I am assuming, and we don't know this for certain, but would speed up quite a lot of...
You'd think they'd got more access to stuff, especially for like your phone records and things like that. And probably a lot of, well, not probably, they have got a lot of experience in leading these kind of investigations, haven't they?
So they did actually manage to get the last 24 hours of kind of cell phone data for Halee, again, to gain insight as to who she was in contact with, where she might have been, and just get a feel for her life in that period and what might have led to this.
And a possible last location as well from the phone.
Yeah.
See if it's pinged any cell towers or anything like that. So you can get a heap of information, can't you, from the mobile phone.
While this is ongoing, obviously, Halee's body has undergone a post-mortem. That showed it was a single gunshot wound to the victim. There was no signs of sexual assault or any signs of defensive wounds, potentially suggesting that she might have known the attacker. But it didn't look like this was an opportunist that was attacking her for any kind of sexual assault.
Yeah, so scrapings were taken from underneath the fingernails as well. Blue towel was sent for analysis. But that is all they've got at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah. As with all cases, you want to speak to friends and family, and so they were being interviewed. And an unexpected kind of twist comes at this point. Obviously, Halee is young herself. She's 20, and we know that she stands up for what is right. And her family noted that Halee had actually been supporting her friend through something really horrific.
Which sort of linked her to the other case, didn't it?
Yeah, so her friend was a mother of a 10-year-old baby named Jackson. And Jackson had unfortunately passed away. And Halee had been right there at the hospital supporting a friend. And Jackson, this little 10-month-old baby, was believed to have accidentally fallen down the stairs when Jordan, the friend, the mother of Jackson, sorry if this is confusing, I'm trying to make it as clear as possible, says that her boyfriend, a man called Thaddeus Rice, had dropped Jackson while he was holding him, and that he tripped over a nappy bag, and that they'd both fallen down the stairs, and unfortunately that's what had led to Jackson's death. When Halee had got home with her friend Jordan after what had happened, and you can't imagine what a horrific ordeal that would be for two young people in their 20s.
Yeah, and especially a friend when she just lost her son.
Yeah. Halee did actually make a point of saying, oh, that seems weird because the nappy bag just looks like it's been placed at the bottom of the stairs. It doesn't look like it would have fallen. And she was suspicious of Thaddeus. So the family then said, I wonder whether, if he suspects that she is suspicious of him, whether or not he would have had any reason to cause Halee harm.
Yeah, because Halee had shared her concerns with people about this nappy bag not being in the correct place.
Yeah.
But Thaddeus was also known in the community, but not in a good way.
No, he was known as being kind of a shady character.
Yeah.
And people were becoming increasingly more suspicious of him in relation to this.
Well, he's facing a lot of charges now as well, a lot of serious charges.
Yeah.
And it's looking like he is probably the only person that has motive to do anything to Halee.
Yeah. On top of that, Heather, Halee's mum, also receives a message which I think was like a forwarded video that had initially come from Snapchat, and it was of Thaddeus brandishing around a gun and kind of showing it to camera.
Yeah.
Obviously what we know now,
we saw the
is
video,
that,
didn't we?
Yeah. And what we know now is that Halee's died from a gunshot wound. So we now know that this person has a weapon.
Yeah.
They're not afraid to brandish it around.
Yeah.
And so does this make him lead suspect? On the night of Halee's death, once they'd got access to her mobile phone data, they did actually confirm that not only would he have motive, but he'd also have opportunity. And that's because Halee had messaged Jordan, her friend, saying that she was going to nip over and come and get her wallet. That then places Halee in the proximity of Thaddeus and Jordan on the night of her death. So obviously they are then taken in for questioning.
Yeah, and when they're taken in, it's sort of what you expect, really. Thaddeus doesn't talk.
Yeah.
He stays quiet. But however, Jordan, the girlfriend, she does cooperate, but she does say they spent the night over at his brother's house. So basically, she's given him an alibi at this point.
And she said, yes, they saw Halee, which is then confirmed on CCTV footage. She got a wallet. Halee's then seen leaving again. And the CCTV doesn't pick up either Jordan or Thaddeus then leaving that property, does it?
No.
So that does provide them with a quite a solid alibi.
But there is, however, some different CCTV footage from outside Halee's apartment, which shows we've got now introducing another man, Isaiah, and he arrives at Halee's apartment at around 10:30 p.m. So a little bit of a background on Isaiah. So back when Halee was working as a waitress, she...
At Texas Roadhouse.
Texas Roadhouse, yeah. She met a guy who also worked there called Isaiah, and they dated for a while and they ended up breaking up, but they still decided to stay pretty good friends.
Yeah.
So Isaiah had gone round to Halee's and he was seen arriving there around 10:30 p.m. I say her house, it was her dorms, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Her student dorms.
He then leaves and he goes and meets his friend. So his friend is a man called, well, a young
man, yeah.
called Jake Allen. And Jake also worked at the Texas Roadhouse. So him and Isaiah were work colleagues. And Jake and Isaiah are both questioned. And Jake says, yeah, we both played some games when he got to mine. And then they went to Walmart at about 2 a.m. Again, this Walmart visit is then verified on CCTV.
Halee wasn't there, though. There was just those
just the
two together, yeah.
So Isaiah had left Halee and then gone to see Jake. So Paul Cruz is the name of the sheriff. And he said that Jake Allen gave an awful lot of information and was as helpful as possible. Jake mentions that, Isaiah had said that he had seen and confirmed that he'd seen Halee. And according to Jake, Isaiah had said, oh, well, we met at the local park near the soccer field. But actually, before I came to see you, I dropped her off and she was going to meet someone else. That seemed a little bit odd because...
It does, because we've seen him CCTV have placed him arriving at her house at 10:30, which is already quite late. It's already dark. By the time you get to the park, whatever time it is, however far it is, you're not looking far off 11 p.m.
No.
So to leave your ex-girlfriend or even friend, female friend, in a park on her own late at night, when Jake had already said that Isaiah was quite you know, he was quite protective of her.
Yeah, well, even both Halee's sisters, when they were asked, obviously, about these names that were cropping up and what information they knew, both sisters said that they thought Isaiah was really nice. He was quite shy, but he took an interest in asking questions about them.
Just made an effort in general, didn't
he?
he?
Yeah, and that he was kind. So it did seem odd that he would have left.
Yeah.
And when the police actually questioned that and said, "Oh, did you feel comfortable leaving her in this empty parking lot to meet someone?" He did say that he didn't want to ask her any questions because it was her business, but that he had no idea who she was meeting. And he did say, well, I thought it was odd as well, but I kind of didn't want to push it. And you kind of think, well, you would get it to a certain extent. If you've recently split up with someone...
You don't want to be like, who you meeting, where you going, what you doing.
You don't want to look like... But people thought that was a little odd. Jake... Again, good friends with Isaiah, but had mentioned to police that Isaiah had been acting strange recently, in that he had been taking from and actually stealing money and other items from not only Jake, but then also Jake's housemates and other friends as well. It also came out that he'd actually taken $600 or borrowed $600 from Halee because he'd said that he was unable to cover his rent. So they were clearly still very close at this point.
Yeah, because $600 is a lot when she's a student as well. Yeah. And for her to trust him, to give him that, to think, he will pay me back sort of thing. And Jake did say it was very, very out of character for him to be stealing and things like that.
You can see some of the footage of Isaiah in interviews as well. And again, that kind of backed up what everyone was saying. He was very relaxed. He was shaking hands with the detectives.
It was cooperative as well, wasn't he?
He told the police exactly what he'd said to Jake, that yes, he'd seen Halee. She said, you can go if you want. He said, are you sure? Is everything okay? She said, yes, everything's fine. So at that point, he then went and met Jake. While all this is going on, police have obviously got to verify all of these accounts, and they needed to place Isaiah and Halee at the park because he said, yes, we were there, so now they need to see it. But there was actually no trace of them at the park. The CCTV and phone coverage shows that they did in fact leave Halee's apartment and head towards the soccer field. But at that point, her phone signal cuts completely off and Isaiah's remains on.
Do you think do you think her phone turned off?
Yeah.
Completely? Because I was thinking if she was in the car with him, how would he get her to turn her phone off?
Yeah. No.
Or, was it just look and a battery died, or did he take it and turn it off,
But his is then seen leaving that area and then heading back towards Evansville. So what comes out is the phone data for that period of time. And again, it does back up Isaiah's story. So at this point, you're thinking, well, either he is now telling the truth and we're now looking for a completely unknown suspect that's just this random guy that nobody has any awareness of that Halee's gone to meet up with.
Yeah.
In which case, you're probably only going to get information from her mobile phone.
Yeah.
Or Isaiah is speaking that closely to the truth of what's gone on that the only bit that he's omitting is the fact that he was the one to kill Halee. You've kind of got those two lines.
Yeah, you have.
Investigation at that point. So the data showed that, as Isaiah had said, between 9 and 10:30, both Halee and Isaiah are at the Texas Roadhouse. 10:43, both of their mobile phones are seen moving in the same direction. By 10:49, they're both heading again, continuing in the same direction. And then between 11:09 and 11:19, Isaiah is actually proved to be texting Jake.
Right, okay.
So they're in communication. At 11:20, they're both registered in that same location. That's confirmed, but then her line goes completely dead.
Okay.
Now, as you've said, is that because her phone's been turned off? Has it been broken?
Yep.
What's happened? Bear in mind, it wasn't found at the crime scene. At 3 a.m, her phone then comes back on in the same cell tower area that her body was found. But then it moves towards the south side of Evansville. So there's a large gap there.
Yep.
Before it's then
because what are we
turned on again.
Like 11:30 until 3 a.m. we've got missing now, haven't we?
Yeah. And Asaya's mobile phone was again seen moving back towards the south side of Evansville. So the police actually go straight to Asaya with this information in interview and say, look, we know that you've been with her. You were there pretty much at the time that she was likely killed. What's happened? And he says, I'm really sorry. I should have mentioned this. I missed out that information because I was scared. So he says that he found the phone or her phone in his car. I'm assuming he's saying that he found it after he'd already dropped her off.
Yeah, dropped her off, found the phone. So instead of waiting, like you would a normal person, to give you the phone back, he wound the window down and threw the phone out of the window. But
can you imagine me?
Oh, and his phone's here.
Yeah. So to me, logical next steps would be, darn it, and he's left a phone. And then I would probably text your sister.
Yeah.
And say, if you can get hold of Annie somehow.
Her
or I'd
here.
message you on Facebook, because you can get that on your laptop or whatever. And be like, just so you know, I've got your phone. And then sort out giving it you back.
You're not going to wind out window and throw it out.
I'm not going to think, oh my goodness, Annie's phone. She'll not need that and throw it out the window. It just seemed like a really odd thing to do. What made this even more strange is the next thing. And again, I think this goes to show how suspects don't think through things.
No, they don't.
Appear to have got it all sussed out.
Yeah.
And actually make a really crucial mistake. So what happened at this point is that, so we're talking now, obviously, early hours. Asaya then, the following morning, actually texted Halee to ask if she was okay and if she got home okay.
Knowing full well that she couldn't have got that text message because he threw the phone out of the window.
So he's clearly trying to look like the good guy, but yet why would you need to look like the good guy unless you weren't?
Unless you weren't the good guy.
Yeah.
But the thing is, here, we've got this bit of evidence, but it's not really a huge piece of evidence.
It's not
linked him
proof,
to
is it?
It's not linked him to the murder, has it?
No.
It's just he's just done something absolutely ridiculous.
They do actually present him with that as well.
Yeah.
They say, listen, at this point, we're pretty sure. And then they ask why he would have killed Halee. And he says, I would never hurt Halee. And as you say, they've then got nothing concrete to go on. So they actually had to let him go.
Yeah, we've no evidence linking him. They haven't got a choice, really, have they? Release him and try and find more.
Yeah.
But then, as police officers, it must be so frustrating to have to release someone who you think has committed a crime that violent.
Because you also don't know what evidence is out there that they just haven't found yet.
Yeah.
And whether or not the offender is then going to go and destroy any evidence.
Yeah.
But now they're pretty certain that Asaya is at least their kind of main suspect.
Yeah.
So they're going to start talking to his family and friends and also try and review more CCTV footage.
Yeah, again, another case what relies heavily on the CCTV. So they look at the CCTV from Halee's apartment. So it shows Halee and Asaya leaving together that night, but Asaya returning back alone. And then he starts going through Halee's car, digging through it for something. Like, what are you looking for? Like, why would you be going through someone else's car? I wouldn't even go through your car.
No, and also, I don't think anyone would want to go through my car. And also, if you're already at her house, he could have just given her the phone.
Took the phone to her house,
just taken the phone then. So, very odd.
Yep. So the police get a search warrant for Asaya's house, and he actually lives with his parents. We've said before that Asaya's quite shy, fairly quiet. And I think at this point, from the footage that I saw, his parents couldn't quite believe that he would do something like that.
No, and again, we are kind of surmising here, but from what you can see in interviews and things like that, it appears that he had quite a regular home life. His parents were together.
Yep.
He was living under their roof. He'd got a job. Apparently, he was struggling to kind of hold down that job. But there's nothing to suggest that they would be worried that he would be capable of something like this.
Yeah.
The family are quite, again, cooperative with the police. So Isaiah's father actually, while this search of the house is being conducted, his father says, yes, we've got a gun in the home. It's locked up. This is where I keep it.
And remember, we are in America now, so it's probably pretty common in maybe these more rural areas to have a gun in your house.
And when he goes to show them the weapon, it actually isn't there. And he says he doesn't know where it is if it's not where it should be. Another thing that sparks kind of interest from officers is that there is a large bath towel in the bathroom, which is is later confirmed to be an exact match for the one that's found at the murder scene.
So
same brand, same colour.
Everything is the same.
Again, that would appear as if they have numerous bath towels in the home.
He's taken one.
And he's taken one and it's ended up there. Again, all of these pieces are slowly but surely coming together, indicating that Isaiah was involved in Halee's murder, but there's still no clear motive for why that would be. An interesting point, which again I think goes to show how sometimes it is the smallest puzzle pieces that make the biggest impact. Just in talking to the police, Isaiah's dad says the only thing that we've kind of been contending with at the moment is the fact that Isaiah has been in a bit of debt to me and he owed me some money that I was waiting to get back.
You have all been there where your mum and dad text you and they're like, have you got money yet? Have you got that money you owe me or whatever?
So it is confirmed that the text message that his dad sent to him would have actually have come through whilst he was at the soccer field with Halee. They obviously then look more into the bank records and they find out that Isaiah had actually written 2 checks in Halee's name. So they'd come from her bank account and they were for $300 each.
So this is on top of the $600 that she's already lent him. Yeah. And this is without Halee's knowledge as well, isn't it? Because he's written them out to himself.
Yes. The morning after Halee's murder, $210 is then placed down on the kitchen counter by Isaiah to give back to his dad towards the amount of money that he owes his father. So we now are starting to see a new pattern in Isaiah's behaviour. He's taking money from people that he loves.
He's pawning stuff.
He is owing money to the ones that he loves. And like I mentioned when Jake had said that he was taking things from not only his friends but also their housemates, it was then revealed that he was actually pawning these items to get money.
What did he want the money for?
This is what I was just about to say. I do find it difficult to know what he was kind of using this money for.
If you're in a house share, surely $600 is a lot, isn't it? For a house share?
And if you have got a job, like Jake did say he was struggling to hold down the job.
But even if you just did 2 or 3 shifts a week.
But if you are getting a regular or at least semi-regular income, your friends are obviously willing to help you. Your family is willing to help you. So it isn't quite clear why he needs this money or what it's being spent on. We don't know that he's got any issues with kind of addiction or gambling or anything like that. So we're not quite sure on that one. In terms of why Halee would then be involved, you think, was it just something as simple as, Halee, please let me borrow some more money? She said, no, I'm sorry, I I can't give you any more.
And he maybe knows that she's got it.
And he has maybe seen that message on his phone come up from his dad. He's
Put
felt
more pressure.
Stressed, and then it's been a kind of spur of the moment.
But I mean,
attack.
we've all felt stressed, and it doesn't mean we're going to go and shoot someone, does it?
No, absolutely not. So all of this is kind of coming together now, but as always, we need the kind of hard facts and the DNA evidence. Unfortunately, Isaiah's DNA was not found on Halee's body or on that blue towel. And again, we found no weapon. So the link between the two, actually, in terms of murder, is
not a lot, is it?
Near impossible at this stage. So the police were really trying to rely on the fact that his story and interview kept shifting and that things didn't make sense and that his behaviour had changed.
It was crazy that they just went for this.
But
Did you not
they
think
decided to charge and prosecute him regardless and take it to trial. And it is really risky because if you don't get the outcome that you're looking for, you've kind of wasted that information.
Yeah.
But the trial came a year later. It lasted around a month, which I did think was quite long, given that there wasn't an awful lot of evidence to go through.
Yeah, is what they did is they played 9 hours of the interrogation footage. So, you know, we said he was changing his story. The full 9 hours was played and the jury watched Isaiah changing his story. I'm just thinking, though, as the jury sat there watching 9 hours of him getting interviewed, it's quite hard going, that, isn't it?
I also noticed that the defence were trying to accuse Thaddeus. They were basically saying, no, it absolutely wasn't Isaiah. What reason would or what motive would he have for the murder? Look at this.
Thaddeus does have a murder.
Thaddeus Rice. He has got a definite motive and he's the one that was responsible. But it is hard because if you've watched 9 hours of someone acting suspiciously and not giving a straight story, and then you're told about this other person, I'm not sure who you would think would be the most likely, really.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Heather, Halee's mum, said that she'd even prepared herself for the murderer to get away with this because of the lack of evidence. But again, as is the case throughout this investigation, there is another twist.
Yes, quite a big twist in this one as well. So we've mentioned before about Isaiah's mum and dad, and they actually brought Isaiah's mum up to testify. And while she was on the stand, she actually said that Isaiah had admitted to killing Halee, but accidentally.
So she said that this was while he was in custody.
Yeah.
So it's after he'd been arrested. And he then said, look, Mum, I did it, but don't get me wrong, I'd never want to hurt her. I didn't do it intentionally. It was an accident. And that he'd then disposed of the gun in a bin.
So you've now got basically a confession, haven't you?
Second-hand confession.
Yeah.
Nobody saw this coming. The defence were, I don't know whether you watched any of the interviews with the defence lawyers, they were fuming about it.
There's nothing they could do though, was there? Because like we said, no one saw this coming. They didn't have anything left, did they, to give?
Yeah, the judge ordered a recess and that just shifts everything, doesn't it? Because they could have gone on an accidental shooting and that he panicked because he was a young, person that didn't know what to do. But then at the same time, he's obviously taken that gun out of his father's possession. And why would he be there in a area that there's no one else around and with a towel at that time?
Do you accidentally shoot someone in the head?
Yeah.
You've got to have the gun to the head to be able to shoot them.
And we didn't mention this at the post-mortem, but she was shot from behind.
Yeah.
So in a desperate attempt at this stage to get their client off, the defence tried to discredit Isaiah's mum by saying that she had maybe heard that if the jury were told that Isaiah had killed Halee by accident, that they wouldn't be able to convict him of murder, therefore he'd get a lesser sentence and it would be better for him. So it was almost like, don't listen to what she said, she's just trying to protect him. But
it's again, so hard, like, from the mum's point of view, like, coming forward and saying that on the stand, probably while your son is in the room.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and knowing that we say it a lot, but knowing that you've now lost a child as well.
Horrendous. Ultimately, despite all of that, Isaiah was found guilty. It was actually found guilty on it said all 4 charges.
I couldn't find what the 4 charges were, though.
I had a look. So obviously he was found guilty of murder, but there were 3 other charges alongside that.
Could it be
potentially the weapon?
Could it be, but then carrying a weapon, but...
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Or was it kidnapping?
I couldn't find information about that. Probably disposing of evidence, because they've still not found the gun or Halee's mobile phone, as far as we can tell.
Yeah, maybe.
So ultimately received a 60-year sentence, which I think is a good sentence.
It is, yeah.
His crimes. I'd also like to state that, again, potentially because of Halee's bravery, Thaddeus Rice was later convicted with the death of Jackson, the little baby, and he received a 40-year sentence for neglect and reckless homicide.
Right.
And again...
So good sentences there, aren't they, for those? Yeah.
In terms of remembering Halee, I've got a few quotes. I actually teared up watching footage. I found some footage of the second memorial of Halee's death. And it was just seeing, 1, how many people were there.
Yeah.
And 2, how many young people. You think these are kids in their 20s. They should be, going out. They should be revising for exams at college.
Not
and
at a
instead,
memorial.
They're at a memorial for one of their friends.
Yeah.
And it's, just horrific. And no one should have to contend with that at any age, but especially at such a young age. Her obituary is actually online, and people are still able to leave messages of remembrance for Halee. We will actually put the link to the obituary in the show notes, because I'm not going to read it all, but I think for you to get a good picture of who she was as a person and how her family wanted to be remembered, it would be important for you to go and have a read of that.
Yeah.
As we've said, in her spare time, she devoted herself to helping friends and family in any way she could. She had an infectious smile that would light up any room, a caring heart that was unmatched. She lived by the motto of love everyone for no reason at all. Her determination and strength was obvious to everyone that knew her, and even though Halee spent a lot of her time working, she took great pride in her schoolwork as well, and to her, failure was never an option.
Oh.
So I would recommend that you go and read the rest of that tribute that her family put together. But again, just a case where there's no clear motive, there's no real reason for a whole life to be lost on what was likely someone who was acting in the spur of the moment and didn't for 1 minute think about, the consequences of other actions, but also that this is a life that you cannot get back.
Yeah.
And how many people are devastated by it.
It's an awful case.
So thank you again for listening. Hopefully we have done it justice. Please let us know if there's anything else that you want us to cover. And that's it for now. Take care.
Bye.